Hey everyone, good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are joining me from. My name is Barton Seaver. I'm a chef, author, and founder of Seafood Literacy here on Ruby. I am so pleased that you chose to join us today, wherever you are, and I'm so pleased that you are part of the Ruby family. Welcome, we love you, it's great to have you. Today, we got a really fun topic, which is how to take apple fruit and turn it into savory dishes. And most of the ones that I'm going to be doing today are going to be salads. We're going to demo a bunch of things. But as always, we can talk about whatever you want to. So, talking mostly appetizers here today, sort of fruit salads, as I mentioned, but any questions you have, regardless of what they're about, politics, well, maybe we leave that on the side for just a minute, huh? Anything else, let's talk about today. But so a couple of things about the logistics of the show we're putting on for you here today. First, I want to thank my colleagues Katie, Patrick, and Richard for helping to get this whole thing live, up and running off the ground. I am not very tech savvy, so the fact that I am beaming to you here from my kitchen on the ragged, jagged, delicious coast of Maine is, to me, nothing short of a miracle, and for that I thank them. But other words, over on the right-hand side, you'll see that little questions box there. If you have a question or any concern that you'd like to raise, just type it in there and hit the add button. If there's any questions that are already in the queue in that lighter gray box right below it, please click the heart button if it's particularly relevant to you or you like that question. That will vote it up to the top, so I'll make sure to get to it. I've got just about an hour with you today before daycare ends, and I've got to go get my brilliant, shining little boys and bring them home for the day. Today, here on the coast of Maine, we have a rather rainy, dreary day. I actually have a fireplace going in the fireplace on June 8th or 9th, whatever today is, which feels a little bit ridiculous, especially in light of the fact that I'm going to be showcasing fresh fruits and such. But anyway, such is the course of things. Any of you who have joined me, though, here before know that I like to start off with just a moment of gratitude, because cooking is an act of love. It is an act of kindness in the world. Well, the world certainly needs more of that. So I thank you for your interest in loving others, feeding them, bringing them to the table. But the very best ingredient in any dish is gratitude. And so as we start this, I want to say I am thankful for you, but I am also thankful for, on this day, a roof over my head. On a day when we're getting about 1.5 inches of rain after a couple seasons of drought. I am happy to be dry, but I am very, very happy that my farm is rather wet right now. So sometimes it's the simplest things, like rain, that give us life and brightness in the world. So with that, let's dive in. I've got a number of I think I've got 4 dishes that I'm going to be doing for you today. Again, all of them salads, which is sort of the way that I thought about this. We'll do another one probably around fruits and sort of entrees a little bit later on. But savory dishes with fruit, it's a really interesting combination. I mean, everybody loves sweet sour. Everybody likes sweet salty, sweet and bitter, right? I mean, sweet goes with just about every flavor combination there is when it's used in balance and used properly. So that's really what we're going to be talking about today, is sort of how to bring that balance to things. In some of the dishes that I'm going to be doing today, the fruit is sort of as a garnish. It is as the piece that kind of coalesces things and gives it the je ne sais quoi, whatever it is, that brings it all sort of more into its full. In others, we're going to be using fruit really as the centerpiece of the dish and using things like mint and other savory flavors to sort of round it down a little bit to bring it back into that savory mode. So 4 dishes that we're going to be talking about today. I've got an arugula salad. This is one of my very favorite salads. Punchy, spicy arugula with lots of fresh mint. And if you see how fresh this is, I've still got some snails crawling on my mint that I just collected out in the rain back there. At some point, I'm going to excuse myself and go let that snail back out into the garden, because life deserves to live, right? But in that salad, we're going to do some very thinly shaved apples, and it's going to be a mustard vinaigrette with some red wine vinegar, some olive oil. So there you go. Another salad is going to be a very thinly shaved fennel salad. Any of you who are not familiar with fennel, please get to know it. I think it is one of the most svelte, lovely, elegant, suave ingredients there is. the flavor of that light anise licoricey aroma to fennel with that oniony celery sort of snap and crispness to it. Fennel to me is just par none. I mean, it is to me my very favorite ingredient. I actually read menus typically sort of right to left, looking for fennel and artichokes. Those are my two favorite ingredients. And if I see fennel, chances are I'm going to order that. But this salad, coming out of the southern reaches of Italy, is going to be very thinly shaved fennel, nice, bright, crisp. Into that, we're going to be doing some black olives, so that bright, poignant, salty salinity, crunch, and sort of pop and pizzazz. And then we're going to be doing some orange segments in that. So I'll be showing you how to segment some oranges rather effectively. And then something else might go into that. Who knows? We'll figure it out as we go, because we're always kind of making things up as we go, because that's what good cooks do. We work in the moment. Sure, it's good to plan, but the moment is always our Lord and sort of the overarching context in which we all work. Let's see, and then two sort of fruit-centric salads that we're going to be doing. One is going to be a watermelon salad. This is a nice little bright, hopefully friendly, flashy little seedless watermelon we got. So I'm going to be showing you some fun ways to cut watermelon so that you get the most out of it. But that is going to be with feta cheese. Again, back to the mint, and then maybe some spice, and I have some Tajin spice, which is a classic sort of Mexican condimento that I just love with watermelon. So that's another salad. And then to finish off, because cherries are really coming into season in full right now, we're going to be doing a cherry cilantro jalapeno salad. Did that sound good? Did you need a minute to just kind of let that sink in? I'll say it again. Cherry jalapeno cilantro salad. Yeah. It just wins. It just wins. Like, I think I've won already just by saying it. Cherry jalapeno cilantro salad. Makes me feel better. Woo! All right. So I'm going to take a question or two, and then we're going to get into it. I think I'll start with a watermelon just to get sort of the bulk of that out of the way, and a fun way to cut it that will show you how to cut it for kids in just the backyard, or for snacking, etc., but also a great way to use it in a salad. So let's take a first question here from Bob A. Hi, Bob. Thanks for joining us today. It's lovely to have you. I haven't seen you before, I don't believe, so welcome. Hi, what fruits are great for a quick pickle or regular pickle? Thanks, Bob. Great question. So to me, watermelon rind is a great one, especially because it takes advantage of something that's otherwise hopefully going to your compost, if not going into the trash. So that's a great thing, and that lasts throughout the year. Let's see, other things that are great for a pickle. I love pickled peaches and pears. Part of this is because on my farm I have peach and pear trees, and so I have copious amounts of peaches and pears with which to deal. But pickled peaches, when picked probably about 3 days underripe, so that when they just begin to smell like a peach, but they're certainly not to that svelte drip off your elbow, just queen of the world and all of creation goodness that a peach becomes. So quick pickled peaches, I really, really love. Nectarines fall into that same category, and basically all other stone fruit that you can work with in that way. Plums, green plums especially, but damson plums, purple plums, whatever you would like to call them. Again, pick them a little bit underripe so that you're not going to end up with a vinegary mush. And by the way, if you do end up with a vinegary mush, great. That's called condiment, or that's called chutney, and it's delicious over grilled meats or fish or whatever, slathered onto some nut cheese or whatever. It's delicious. You can't really go wrong. But you do want to get some structural integrity from this. So the quick pickle, to me, I love using red wine vinegar with fruit. It adds that, it sort of matches it in terms of the body and density of the flavor of the vinegar to the fruit itself. And I think just that bit of darkness that you get out of that vinegar really brings out the best in the brightness of the fruit. So red wine vinegar, bring that to a boil, probably equal parts red wine vinegar and water for a quick pickle, 2 parts vinegar, 1 part water for a longer lasting pickle. Probably 2 parts salt, 1 part sugar to this as well. You can leave out the sugar, you can add maple, or you can just leave out the sweetener all in itself. But Pour that over and let it sit just overnight to allow sort of the fruit to quick pickle and soften. I might even add some red onion in there as well. It'll help sort of set some color to the whole thing, adding some pink, which is a really nice color and sort of what we expect when we see peaches. But also the onion will add some pungency to it that will help to offset. And speaking of pungency, soy picante, I love me some spice. So I always throw in there some chilies. Let's see, just literally almost within reach. I've got Calabrian chilies, I've got crushi peppers, I've got arbol chilies, I've got Korean chilies. A lot of these I grow and dry on my farm here, but I like that in there. Sweet, spicy, salty. Yeah, great combination. So those are my favorite sort of quick pickles. But another pickle that I've done with peaches in particular that I really, really loved was I smoked them. Smoked them for about 45 minutes or so. Again, these are sort of 2 days till ripe, 3 days till ripe peaches. Basically just at the point where you have to, you think you might be able to pull the pit out with a great deal of effort, but you basically have to still cut it out right about that stage of ripeness. I smoked them, cold smoked them for about 45 minutes to an hour, and then I pickled them in just a salt, sort of 2 part sugar to 1 part salt, pickled brine, and I let it sit. And you have to let them sit for about 6 months, or else the smoke is just like, it's too much. It's too much. But, oh my, once that smoke calms down and it integrates and the whole thing, oh man. Talk about the best Manhattan cocktail you'll ever have in your life. Man, with a smoked peach rim, just sort of make a slice in it, run it around the rim, muddle just a little bit of it in there with a whiskey, maybe a dash of mint or something, sort of combining a Manhattan and what's that derby drink? Oh boy, I don't drink enough whiskey to even remember what the drink's called. But anyway, throw that together. That's a really fun one. Throw it on salads, thin shave these pickled peaches of any sort onto arugula, that nice peppery bite to sort of pair against it. You are in a winning situation, my friend Bob. Thank you so much for your question. I appreciate you. All right, so let's dive into a watermelon here. And Richard, my compatriot on the back side here, I'm going to step back and we're going to start doing a demo. So let's see. With watermelon, and it depends on what size you're talking about dealing with, but this is a nice smaller one. So in my house, we only eat about half a watermelon at any time. And you see how I did this? I take the knife and I go right through the middle and I go straight to the bottom and then use the knife as leverage to come down. I'm not cutting, I'm not sawing, I'm just using leverage. And then you can just roll it over and cut straight down. So you're always safe here, always safe. Because the worst thing with watermelon is an injury. So now you've got a nice clean cut across there. And I'm going to do the same thing up at the top. I'm going to take a fair amount off the top. So there you have this now. Okay, so I'm just going to throw this into the compost because I've already got some watermelon rinds going. And then you start moving around the sides like this and coming straight down. And that first cut is going to be big and broad, but then every other cut is going to take off a section like this. And you see how my knife is going sideways and then I rotate down. Okay, got that? All right. So now you've really not taken off too much of the sweet flesh, but you also don't have much of that white, if any, around. So here we go. Now I have this for just for snacking. I would go ahead and cut it into sort of batons or sticks, which I probably will for this preparation as well. So I'll just go ahead, and you want to leave it fully intact. Okay, now the easiest thing to do is to rotate the cutting board, right? That was a lot easier than trying to move 5 pieces of watermelon that all want to come apart. So I'm just doing single cuts where I'm really using the length of the knife as the tool. There you go, right? Now watch this. Talk about the ease of serving. Bye-bye, watermelon. I'm just going to do this. Pour a little bit of that juice off. And look at that. There you go. How easy is that? right? That is the easiest way to serve a watermelon that there is. And if you do it over the kitchen sink, there's nothing to clean up afterwards, and you lose very little. And it actually looks really nice. A slightly bigger watermelon, fit into a bigger bowl, etc. But even giant watermelons, okay, so fine. If they're, pieces are this tall, whatever. I mean, that's a really fun, nice way to serve watermelon. Elegant and easy. So there's that. So we're going to, and this is, I'll just do sort of more of a plated style on this. This is really more about the flavor components than it is about anything else. So if you wanted to serve a composed plate that is a bit more elegant, then here you go. I've got some feta cheese. You can use a nut-based feta cheese, anything, but really what you're looking for is the acidity to cut against the sweetness of the watermelon. You can do large chunks, or you can just crumble the whole thing. Do it all around like this. I mean, is this starting to make you feel happy? I feel happy just looking at this. Yes, I do. There's your feta, and then let's see, where's our snail? Oh, snail's getting around. Excuse me a second, folks. I'm just going to run this outside. I'll be right back with you. There you go. Eat more of my garden. All right, I'm back from my humanitarian mission there. So mint leaves, mint and watermelon. Mint and fruit is just a very perfect combination in both savory and sweet components. I think that most people are afraid to use mint as something that they taste, so often. And I think certainly when I was coming up in kitchens, mint was used only as the garnish on dessert. And it was really a non-functional garnish, right? That whole pluche or sprig of mint. And really, it wasn't much of anything, right? I mean, it was there. The first thing you did when the dish hit the table, and this was way before cell phones and Instagram, you'd say, ooh, and then you take the mint and you put it over there, right? All right, well, any of you have a garden out there? Yeah, you do? Great. Any of you have mint planted in your garden? You do? Great. Well, you know that the only way to control mint is to use it in everything. Literally everything. Put it in your iced tea. It's good in coffee, even. Put it on your savory salads. Incorporate it into your desserts. Don't just leave it on top. So here I'm using enough mint that it almost sort of feels like a salad green in a way. You could add some nice arugula to the top of this. I'm going to use that tajin spice. Tajin is basically lime and chili. And I'm going to use a good bit of that. So cover the plate with it. And then just some olive oil. There you go. So even if you're not doing olive oil, guess what? This dish is extraordinarily delicious without it. Nut, cheese, feta, whatever it is that you're using, this simple combination is incredible. Even just the watermelon with the tajin spice alone. This is basically a lime and chili. Lime, chili, watermelon equals yes. Lime, chili, and mango equals yes. Lime, chili, and peach equals yes. Lime, chili, and apple equals yes too. You get the point? Yes. Tajin spice. I have no financial interest in the Tajin Corporation or whatever it is called. I just really like to use it. It picks everything up a notch. So there you go. Watermelon, feta, mint salad. You can serve this any which way you want, family style. Throw on some arugula so it's far more of a green salad. There you go. All right. Well, that was fun. So let's take another question, and then I'll get on to the, I'll do the cherry salad after that. So let me just put this feta away. All right. Uh-oh. Up at the top of the list here, I see my friend Judy. Hi, Judy. How are you? Nice to see you. I love pairing fish with fruit, especially the heavier, richer fish, such as bluefish, your favorite. Woohoo! Aren't you and I friends for a reason? There you go. Bluefish is my favorite thing, too. Any thoughts on best fruits to use with this fish? Also, your watermelon lime mint salad from For Cod and Country is great with everything. Well, thank you. Yes, I appreciate you saying so. So this version here is just sort of a slight take and variation on that, but Judith is talking about one of my very first cookbook for Cod and Country, available wherever fine books are sold. Appreciate you saying that, Judith. My favorite fruits to pair it with: fish. Fish, to me, seafood is such an elegant flavor that I want something elegant with it. Watermelon, to me, with seafood is perhaps a little bit blunt. It's a little watery. Its flavor is sort of too broad, if you will. Will it be good? Yeah, of course it would be good. In a nice pico de gallo with half the tomatoes substituted for, similarly diced watermelon, absolutely, that would be great. It would have some really nice crunch and texture to it, but it would also sort of need those savory points of the acidity of the tomato, a little bit of lime juice, that crunch of the onion as well, the spice of jalapeno in your pico maybe, to sort of bring it into focus. To me, the very best fruits with seafood are stone fruits. Peaches, I particularly like nectarines. I think nectarines are just a step less blousy than peaches are. They still have that wonderful aromatic richness and height of flavor and aroma, but not quite as much sweetness, and a little bit more structural integrity to them, even when ripe. Apricots, again, I think apricots are a very, very shy, demure, but equally lovely sort of member of the peach clan, if you will. Peach is sort of the overt, boisterous, gregarious sister, and apricot is the more studious, sort of reserved sister of the family of beautiful stone fruits. But it works equally well. Again, going back to mint, mint just brings everything into focus so quickly and so seamlessly that chiffonade of mint, or just using these tiny little leaves from the inside of that bunch, especially if you're picking your own, you've got copious amounts of that. And you know what? The more of those little leaves you pick off, the better it is, because you're going to slow the flowering on the mint. And slow its growth a little bit. So one good way to actually control your mint population. So, and with those, and again, getting back to the spice, I just love spice. And whether you're talking about mango, whether you're talking about peach, whether you're talking about pear, I think a key is to pick fruit that's just a little underripe so that you can effectively work with it. You want to be able to cut it, and for that dice to hold its structural integrity. And I would say dice because really what you're eating here is the fish, right? And the sauce is, well, it's a sauce meant to sort of improve or enliven the fish. And in that way, you want it to be bite-sized. You don't want a half a peach sitting on top of your fish, right? So something with just enough structural integrity that you can get a good-looking salsa, sort of salpicon cut out of it. So there you go. Mango is, of course, very popular. But pineapple is, of course, very popular, especially once you get into southern Mexican cuisine, etc. And I like that very much. But yeah, so there you go. Hey, Judith, good seeing you. Thanks, friend. All right, so let's move on from watermelon and let's move over to a fennel. Now let's do this cherry salad that I was talking about, because I've got them here. And cherries. Cherries are so good. All right. So for this one, these cherries are still fairly crunchy. They've reached their full sweetness, and so it's important to taste this. If you've got some cherries that are bordering maybe a little closer towards sour, it's good to know that, just in terms of what you're going to fill out your vinaigrette with. In terms of maybe if you're going to use sesame oil or olive oil, one is going to add some butteriness to it. The other is going to add some spiciness to it. The olive oil is probably going to add some of that green acetic acid that sort of sits in the back of your throat, which will be a nice pairing to a sweeter olive. Something that's a little more sour but still sweet, maybe some sesame oil would just be perfect, or any other nut oil would add that grounding factor to it. But for this salad, I like to macerate the cherries just a little bit. And I'll do that with the jalapeno because the cherries have enough texture in and of themselves. And these cherries, again, are just slightly underripe. This is still early in the season. And these are from Washington State. These are not from my farm. My farm's cherries. They'll be another 2 months probably. But you can't go too heavy on jalapeno in the salad, in my opinion. And what you want is something that's about 1/8 of an inch thick, something that's going to hold up in texture. And I've got my trusty mandolin here. And try not to cut myself. And I just start at the bottom and go all the way up. Those seeds, and this is why I'm using a jalapeno, because it's not going to be too spicy. You really should be getting pepper flavor out of this more so than spice. You don't want to hurt yourself. Hey, if you're a habanero fan and that's just what you eat for breakfast, fine, go ahead for it. Great. It's going to be delicious. Even a mix of peppers, whether you want to do some red bell or green bell peppers with some serrano chilies, etc. It's really that pepper flavor that brings this whole thing into balance. So I've got that. So maybe about 100 or so slices of the, or maybe more of that. And then when I say cilantro salad, wow, it is a very humid day here. My refrigerator froze my cilantro in about 10 minutes. Sucks. So, as I said, I'm going to macerate these. I'm going to use just a little bit of salt. Really, this dish doesn't need much to bring into focus. So I've got that. Let's see, what kind of vinegar should I use? I'm going to use sherry vinegar. About a tablespoon of sherry vinegar up there. And I use enough sherry vinegar that I buy it by the 3-liter box. I use enough olive oil that I buy it by the 5-liter box, by the case, because I'll go through this in about a month, maybe even less. So that's that. Just a little bit of salt, a little bit of vinegar, and I'm just going to let those cherries sit for a little while. And what that's going to do is it's going to leach out some of that liquid, some of that cherry juice, so that we can effectively make a vinaigrette and sort of effectively dress this, knowing what level of sweetness and spice we have there. So as soon as that juice begins to come out, which happens almost immediately due to the salt and the vinegar, then I will, and on this I decide I'm going to use some olive oil. And I've got a very spicy, fatty, rich olive oil up here, and I'm going to use a good bit of this. So that's probably 3 or 4 tablespoons. Yeah, that might sound like a lot, but yes, I mean, it's summer. Go for it. That's the whole point. And when I say salad on the cilantro, I don't mean I'm just going to pick a couple of leaves. I mean, I'm going to take this washed bunch of cilantro and I'm going to cut it into about bite-sized pieces. I'm going to leave all the stems in there too. And I'm just going to do this. So really, the cilantro is acting as a salad green. It's not an herb garnish. This is not something that we are being very careful and cautious about not using too much of. Nope, this is the sort of the impetus of the dish. I'm going to add this some of the more of the stems in there too for crunch. And it's delicious. The texture is full and bright. So compost with the rest of that. And there you go. So again, I'm just going to let this sit for another couple minutes. So we'll take a question, then I'll come back and I'll show you what this looks like plated. I love this salad just as, put a piece of halibut or something underneath it. I mean, a piece of just nice grilled tofu with some smokiness to it, subtle. You sort of get into, I don't know why, but like this dish always reminds me of sort of Israeli flavors in a way. So sort of I go Middle Eastern very quickly on this. You could add a dash of cumin, powdered cumin to this to really bring out that Middle Eastern flavor profile. But this is not meant to be a little garnish. This is a full salad. This is full flavored, full force summer cooking right there. All right, Marcy, hey friend, nice to see you. Looking forward to learning more about fruit and savory dishes. Sweet and savory is my favorite combo. Tips on grilling fruits, also resources on making chutney. Thank you, Marcy. Of course. All right, Marcy. Well, nice to see you back again. So grilling fruits, I would say you want to be about 1 to 2 days under ripe. Why? Well, because you want the fruit to caramelize slightly through the grilling process. Not only are you trying to pick up that smoky char flavor, but you really want some of those sugars to interact and naturally evolve through the Maillard caramelization reaction, which really changes the flavor of the fruit. Otherwise, you just put a little bit of liquid smoke on a piece of raw fruit and call it a day, right? Oh, that's not grilled fruit. You really want to get the grill out of the grill, right? That's so pick something that's going to have some structural integrity that's going to get you 10 minutes of cooking on the grill, maybe even more. So my very favorite summertime dessert is grilled peaches. And what I do is I take 2 to 3 days under ripe peaches, have them, split them, take out the pit, and then when I'm done cooking dinner and I still have a little bit of fire on the grill, I put all the peaches cut side down right over those coals, and I put the top on and I choke the air. So I've got charcoal grills, so this will work. It doesn't really work for gas grills because it doesn't retain as much heat. It will still work, just not as well, I think, as with charcoal or with wood. So I then choke the air off so that fire dies. And then over the course of the next 45 minutes to an hour or so, when you sit leisurely, enjoying your delicious dinner, and then it's like, oh man, I wish I had something sweet. I put peaches on that grill, woo! And you open up that grill and you're like, are they? No, they're perfect. Oh, are they perfect? Oh, are they perfect? Because you've choked that fire off, you've just created this incredible, unctuous, slow cook method where everything just, you get all the smoke, you get just enough cooked, but you're also cooking at maybe 250 degrees or something. So those peaches soften perfectly. The skins will probably just pop right off if you don't want to serve them. I always do because it adds a nice textural component to me. But the bottom side, the cut side that's been to the fire, hasn't charred or burned, but it's browned, fully browned. Those sugars have really come into themselves. What do I put on top of this? If you're thinking I put mint on top of it, you're probably right on. Yep. So I'll chiffonade some mint, throw a scoop of vanilla ice cream or vegan ice cream, whatever you want to use, and then a few drops of real balsamic vinegar over the top. And you are just like head bashingly, just like, oh my gosh, this is good. Oh my gosh, this is good. It is so good. Other fruits that work really well, pears are really great grill fruit. And with something like a pear, I would cut them in half, top to bottom, and then scoop out just the seed pit there, and then put that straight down. One of the things you want to be careful about is, yes, these are going to soften quite a bit. So you want to give yourself a big enough piece that you can work with it to get it off effectively. And to me, the first thing about putting food onto a grill is having a strategy for getting it off of the grill, right? And so if you're going to grill tiny little pieces of peaches that are going to sort of subdue and caramelize down to, a lot softer pieces of peaches, well, good luck getting them off the grill, right? You've now created a frustration for yourself. They're going to pick up enough flavor if you do it low and slow. If you're not doing it low and slow at the end of the grilling process, as I mentioned, sort of choking off the air, fine. Do an offset grill or an indirect grill method. And this is the only way I pretty much grill, is if I've got an 18-inch Weber charcoal kettle grill. That's all you need. I regularly feed 20 people off an 18-inch grill. I put all the coals on one side, and I do my high heat grilling over here, and I do my low heat grilling over here. And I found it's a lot easier to pick up the grill grates and just move the whole grate around than it is necessarily to pick up each piece of whatever it is. Sure, you've got to flip some things, other things you don't have to flip. So you can always just kind of rotate the grill grate around to come in closer or farther contact from your fire. So if you want to do it all at once, that's easy enough to do. If you're doing a grilled corn and red onion, cherry tomato, and grilled nectarine salad, Wait, what was that? A grilled corn, red onion, cherry tomato, and nectarine salad? Yeah, that sounds good, right? Yes. So you have your corn, shucked corn, right over the high heat. You've got your red onions and cherry tomatoes maybe in a basket close to those heat, so they really char and caramelize a little bit. Your corn, you're turning constantly, and you've got your nectarines over here. All you want them to do is just take 2 steps up the sweetness level to just go a little bit ahead of their ripeness date, right? Because you've got sweet corn, you've got sweet red onions, you got the acidity of tomatoes. Pull all that off, cut the corn off the cob, dice up, just rough chop the nectarines, throw it all in there with some olive oil, some mint, cilantro, tarragon, whatever you got on hand, basil, summertime. Yep, like there you go. That's an incredible salad. So, lots of different ways to grill fruits. Grilled watermelon is really fun. You need high heat on that because you're really trying to just add a touch of caramelization really quick. And what do you think watermelon's made out of? Is that a rhetorical question? Yeah. Guess what? Water doesn't grill very well. Neither does watermelon, unless it's very high heat and you're looking for just that quick sear of smoke and maybe some grill lines just to give it that visual appeal, which is so key to grilled foods. So there you go. It's a couple of different thoughts there. And any resources on making chutney you asked after as well? No. Um, huh. I don't really make chutneys very often, but really, uh, yeah, I mean, most preservation books. I think there's a book called Preserve It, I believe that I own. Is a really good one. The River Cottage Cafe has a series of topical books, and they have a preserves book that's really good. That really talks about sort of the process of preserving, much more so than specific recipes. So I would recommend those two. Um, yeah, there you go. Anyway, appreciate you, Marcy. Nice to have you back. All right, so let's toss this salad together. Let me get a plate before I do that. Excuse me, folks. So this is something that you would want to do just at the time of service because that cilantro is obviously going to wilt rather quickly once it's been dressed. But there you go. Look at that. What I like about the cilantro being in big pieces like this is that it creates the architecture within the salad to actually hold the cherries within it, as opposed to all the cherries ending up at the bottom with a bunch of cilantro leaves on top. No, those stems create that architecture that holds it all together. Cherry juice with cherry vinegar and olive oil as your topping there. Mm-hmm. Does anyone else just feel happy looking at this? Like I do. I'm going to add something that I think it needs, which is black pepper. And there's no black pepper in my grinder. Look at me adding black pepper. Can't you imagine it being so delicious? Just a few crunches of it, fresh cracked around the outside. You just get this sort of textural pop. And don't mind mixing chili pepper with black pepper. They don't do the same thing necessarily to a dish. They really add two very different counterpoints, which are really lovely. And in this dish, it is absolutely perfect. But there you go. I mean, bring that out to your family. Yeah, your family will say, "Ah, you love me." Indeed, you do. Indeed, you do. All right. Let's do this fennel salad that I was talking about now. So fennel, as I mentioned, is just about my favorite ingredient in the world. I think it is lithe, it is suave, it is svelte, it is sexy. It's just like kind of everything I want a raw ingredient to be, and it cooks down well too. So I often see people cutting fennel top to bottom like this. And what you get when you do that is pieces that to me, they look really good, especially when you get into, you get these nice big long pieces and they're sort of held together. And it looks kind of like a bloomin' onion type thing, but you know what? It doesn't eat very well. It may look very good on the cover of that food magazine, but it doesn't eat well. Why? Because if you try and put something that's this big into your mouth, it is literally the same size as my mouth. It doesn't work. You know what it does? It gets vinaigrette all over my face. And then I have to be like, what are you doing? You're just like a wild animal, sort of like gnawing on fennel out in the woods, which is fine. I mean, hey, if that's the theme of your party tonight, cool, cool, great. All the best to you. All the best. Sorry, I'm a little weird today. Anyway, what I like to do is I cut the fennel crosswise, and then again using a mandolin. You can do this by hand. I think it's better done on a mandolin because you can get super, super thin. And by super thin, I mean something that, at best, that's about where you want it to be. That if you hold a piece up, that it droops to about a 45-degree angle. That to me is perfect because it's going to hold its structural integrity. It's going to snap. I don't know if you can really, no, it's still snappy. You can hear that. But it's not going to be so substantial as to be kind of hard to eat or hard to integrate into the dish. So any thinner than that, which is fine, that's a little too thin. If you're doing it really like a la minute, like I'm gonna shave this up and I'm gonna put it out, I'm gonna eat it, and the person's gonna have it in front of them within the next 2 minutes, that's fine. But really, this is where you want to aim for. It's about 45-degree angle of sort of flop, if you will. Floppy fennel. There you go. Coined it here. All right. So nice big piles of that. I'm not going to go through too much of this, but also what I want to show you here, because we're talking about fruit, is how to segment some oranges. So you've got your fennel there. Let's get a bowl of this. So top, bottom of the orange will go. So you get really to the good portion of the segment there. So you're not trying to segment from the side. Again, just like the watermelon, making a couple of slices, just come all the way down and around. And if you're doing this right, you're not taking off too much of the flesh, but you're not leaving too much of that white pith on there as well. So that's just about perfect. And you can do this using any sized knife. And there's two ways to do this. You now have those segments of pith that run between each segment. So you can go on the right and the left side to free that, at which point you get the orange supreme or that segment. Or what I find easier is I just, because I'm right-handed, go in on the left side, and then I just flip the knife and I come right out. Whoops, that didn't really work. So maybe the other way is best on this one. So you go in, and then you can just, well, yeah. Did I mention that cooking in reality is better than cooking with ideas? So this orange is just peeling apart pretty easily. But if you get an orange that just depends on how it's behaving, but see what I'm doing? I'm going right down to the core and then just peeling it off of that next section of pith. And when you do that, you get right along it. So you're missing almost absolutely nothing from that segment. Just like that. Any extra you got there, just squeeze that juice in there. And there you go. So I'll do that one more time for you. So again, top and bottom, and then around. If you leave any of that white pith on there, like pieces like that, you can just come right back and take that off. Or you can just leave it on. Slight bit of bitterness to it, which that adds, is a good thing. And then on, however you want to do it, on either side. So you get that segment. I'll show you again. 1, 2. Get that segment. If you get a little piece of pith on there, that's fine. I mean, unless you're working at the French Laundry or another place where, you know, it has to be absolutely perfect. imperfect to me is actually far more attractive than the food waste involved in making something perfect and the stress involved in it. Because honestly, I'm trying to enjoy this meal and I'm trying to enjoy the people that I'm sharing it with. And yeah, well, there you go. So there you go. So now you've got your orange juice sort of as part of your vinaigrette as well. Now that's a little more than I need for just this one tiny little salad. And you know it, because I don't really feel like doing too many dishes tonight. I'm just going to brush out that same dish. There's your shaved fennel. I'll use these big pieces too, because I don't want to waste those either. Now, a great combination with olives, with fennel and orange is olives, especially dry cured black olives. So with these have already been sliced. This is just like a pitted sliced Kalamata. I would suggest not using your fingers to do this because I've just put a whole lot of bacteria into the jar. And so now these olives have to be used pretty quickly. I have a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old who really like them some olives. So that's not going to be an issue. I like to use those whole segments in there. Salt, you don't need a whole lot of salt because of that. Those olives are going to add that counterpoint, that poignancy to it. Good bit of olive oil, a dash of sherry vinegar. You can use red wine, white wine vinegar, whatever. You really can't go wrong on this. Toss it all together. You can leave this herbless. You can use the fennel tops, like those little fennel fronds, something like this, little pieces that come off the tops. Those are from the bulb that I sliced. All these little tops are in the stock that I'm making on the stove over there. So definitely don't throw these away, but do that. And there's your salad. And again, what's great about this fennel is that the way that I cut it lends that structural integrity to the dish so that the olives and the oranges are held within the fennel rather than just all sitting at the bottom. So what you end up with is integrated bites of food. And what's great about this is that, well, all of your flavors are right there. You've got salty, sweet, you've got crunchy, you've got the very highly aromatic component of the fennel. What else can you add to that? Cilantro, parsley. You can make an anchovy vinaigrette. Maybe put some mustard in there. Whole grain mustard would be great. You got some radishes coming up out of the garden. You got pea shoots. You can't go wrong on this. So there you go. All right, I'm going to wash my hands, and then we're going to take some questions and come to the end of our segment here. I hope I haven't been too weird for you all today. But hey, weird is fun, right? We encourage our boys to be weird. The world needs more weird. Less creep, more weird. Okay, from Omar K. Hey, friend, how are you? A lot of the savory recipes I've seen involving fruit also involve alcohol. I know it's a bit hard without a specific example of recipe, but are there common substitutes for those who are completely abstain for religious, health, or addiction reasons? Absolutely. So the alcohol is really not necessary, to tell you the truth. The alcohol, I think, is really in the specific cases that I'm thinking about, where it's a flambé or something like that. Oftentimes, the alcohol is used as a cooking medium to integrate the fruit into the sauce, to integrate it into that larger dish. And the alcohol just adding acidity, poignancy, sort of a counterpoint to the fruit, that hint of bitterness that comes on the back palate with alcohol. So I think there's a lot of ways around this. Look at verjus. Verjus is the unfermented must, the juice of wine grapes. So you get all that flavor, a little bit more sweetness because the sugar in that juice hasn't turned into alcohol yet. Alcohol is just another form of sugar. But you're going to get that flavor. And in the cooking process, you're going to get that active incorporation. Another thing, use vinegar. Vinegar is going to add that sweet sour component backbone to it that alcohol fruit is looking to achieve. So there's vinegar, and you know what? Just water is fine, or just a little veg stock. Even say if you were doing like a lamb, a braised lamb with prunes that calls for red wine as your braising liquid. Uh, Fine. Water would be just fine right there. A veg stock would be just fine. I don't think you would want to use a lamb stock or a beef stock. That might be a little too heavy because really what you're looking for is a fresh result at the end, bright and acidic. So just use some water. Use a little bit of vinegar, maybe half and half vinegar and water would work more than adequately to really bring those flavors together. Because really, again, what you're trying to do is mature the flavor of that fruit and bring it into coalescence with the rest of the dish. That's really what you're aiming for. So, Omar, great question. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you joining us. All right, from Regina H. Hi, Chef. Salads sound delicious. Could you share the recipes from today? Sure. Well, the recipes from today are really very, very straightforward and simple. It's really more about sort of how many people are you feeding? And if you've watched, I hope you're taking notes on this because it's really more about the way things look and feel than it is about specific ratios. I mean, if you're using Rainier cherries, those beautiful sunset hued cherries, those are a lot sweeter than red cherries. Early season cherries are a lot more sour than late season cherries, etc. So generally, here you go. For the cherry salad, I used 2 cups of um, 2 cups of cherries. I used 1 full jalapeno. I used 1 whole bunch of cilantro, all the way down to the stem. I used about a tablespoon of cherry vinegar, and I used 4 tablespoons, I think, of olive oil. There you go. A little bit of salt. For the watermelon salad, it is uh, as much watermelon as you care to serve. I mean, this is, an elegant preparation here, but that could be one portion for one person. So if you were doing a buffet platter, or family style platter, really what you're looking for is about that integration of salty, sharp, tangy feta to sweet watermelon. If the watermelon is super uber sweet, you're going to need a little more feta, or maybe crumble the feta up so that it integrates a little bit more. Really, these are sort of flavor profiles more necessarily than recipes. And then with the fennel salad that I did here, that was this is one large portion as an appetizer, but it's about half a bulb of fennel. This was about 1 orange. I've still got about 1 orange of segments left in the bowl there, and probably about 10 olives, pitted and sliced. Again, just a couple tablespoons of olive oil and a dash of vinegar. And there you go. But really, again, with fruit, sort of one of the main takeaways from the event today is that with fruit, it's really about tasting the fruit. It's about tasting the mint. It's about tasting the arugula and figuring out how to bring it all into balance. That's really what's key. So a recipe, in fact, might lead you astray from that. It's really up to you. As soon as it tastes good to you, guess what? It's a good dish. There you go. There is no right or wrong with this, and also consider what you're serving alongside of it. If you're serving a spicy braised something, or if you're doing a piece of fish off the grill with a spicy pico de gallo, a little bit of sweetness is on the side as an appetizer. That's a good thing, just in terms of sort of point counterpoints. So I don't have exact recipes for you, but there you go. Those are some pretty straightforward quantities that you look for. So, hey, thanks, Virginia. Appreciate you. From Audie, hi, friend. Nice to see you again. Can I substitute mangoes for peaches in a peach pie? Yes. Yeah, you sure could. And in fact, I think that those things would probably be about equal in terms of moisture content. I think mangoes, you'd look for something a little bit more underripe than with peaches. And so just be aware of the fact that you might have to add a bit more sugar if that's part of your diet to sort of bring it into balance. For me, I've never put sugar on a mango in my life. I put maple syrup on mangoes. Yay. partially because I live in Maine and I'm surrounded by maple trees, and about the only thing to do in February is shovel snow and boil maple sap. So I love doing that. But uh, yeah, try that. Substitute a little bit of the sugar with maple and add some lime juice as well, just to keep it all in balance. And if it tastes in balance to you when raw, it's going to taste in balance when it's cooked down as well. Mango does lose its texture pretty quickly, so I would think about how much thickener you're using. If you're using a cornstarch or rice flour or something else, you might need to up that a little bit. So we made a peach pie the other day. It's actually up there. I'm sorry, that was a rhubarb pie. Excuse me. Um, and the recipe called for 4 tablespoons of cornstarch, which is way too much, and we put in just 1 tablespoon, and it was more than enough. So I would think that mangoes might be 1.5 tablespoons of cornstarch or so for a typical pie. So there you go. Hey, Audie, nice to see you. Thanks for joining us again. All right, from Diane. Hi there. I just made the forks over knives bok choy salad with a sweet soy vinaigrette! Exclamation point. I can only imagine that means it's a good thing. I only made it with vegetables. It was so delicious. What fruits might you add to a bok choy salad? Interesting. So a bok choy has a sort of a sneaky bitterness to it that I really like. When you cook bok choy, that becomes this sort of sneaky sweetness, which I really like as well. But when raw, um, it has that bitterness. So bok choy and mango would be a great combo. Mango having that sort of real back palate lift to it would really bring out the green and pleasant aspects and cabbagey aspects of the bok choy. Add some lime juice to it, especially I think if you're using any fruit. But also I can see bok choy and apples or shaved pears going really well as sort of like a coleslaw type thing. Would be a really nice combination, that cabbagey bok choy cruciferous with the apple or with the pear, and the crunch of that would be a nice combo. So cheers. Hey, Diane, thank you so much. All right, from Michelle, and then I'll get into the mint and arugula salad as we come to a close here. I haven't even seen how many questions we have. Whoa, we have a lot of questions, so maybe I'll just talk through that arugula real quick. All right, from Michelle. Hey, chef, made the mango paste in the cooking class this week. What can I make with it? What can you recommend? It seems like it go a lot of cuisines. Thank you. Sure. I don't actually know the mango paste that I haven't done the forks over knives, which I imagine you've been in, but mango paste from a sweet perspective can be a great vinaigrette, especially when mixed with mustard for that sort of point counterpoint, sweet bitter to acidic potent. That mustard, especially whole grain mustard, which is so good, a good Pommery mustard, which is sweet unto its own. It doesn't have a lot of added sugar often. So that would be a really great combo. I mean, slather that on top of a center of the plate item, whether you're talking about a piece of fish or a piece of seitan or seared tofu, grilled tofu in particular. That would be a great vinaigrette. Let's see, as a dip for vegetables or as the sort of a sweetening base for a curry would be really delicious as well. Throw in all your toast your spices, throw some almonds into a pan, toast your spices, get them all dry toasted, add some coconut milk and some mango paste, some bay leaves, curry leaves, simmer that all down together, would come into a really nice fruition, if you will. Yeah, that'd be good. And if it's a little bit on the bitter side, think about adding maybe a sweeter vinegar, like a balsamic vinegar, a true balsamic, to it to make like a marinade for whatever it is that's going to go out on the grill. Man, that'd be good. Even with just green beans on the grill with some finely chopped shallots tossed in just at the very end, so that the heat of the green beans charred coming off the grill sort of wilts those shallots, but they're still a little bit crunchy to them, and you dip those into the woo. Yeah, I'm making myself happy just thinking about all this stuff. Thanks. Appreciate you, Michelle. All right, from Sebastian. Hey, Chef Barton, thanks for sharing all your knowledge. You are so very welcome. Question is, how would you use bananas in savory dishes? Thank you. Well, Sebastian, you've caught me off guard with that one because I don't actually use bananas in savory dishes. I can see them being simmered into curries, much like I was just talking about with sort of that mango paste. That would sort of play a similar role. It would add a really nice sweetness to it and help to thicken as well. Let's see. Underripe bananas could be shaved very, very thin and served with cilantro, lime juice, maybe something sweet like an orange juice to add that sweetness back to it. I think that would be really nice. Maybe some very thinly shaved shallots in there to add some crunch to it. That would be something you would have to make really a la minute. Um, it would have to be served right away before those bananas really drooped and wilted to the point where it was just like kind of awkward to eat. Um, but you know what? I'm going to do that. I'm going to make a banana, a very thinly shaved underripe banana, and by underripe I mean um, probably a day, 2 days earlier than this, where you still have a little bit of green up around the neck here. You haven't seen the spots form yet. You still have a pure yellow. Um, that's probably what you're looking for on that. And I would cut them in half this way, peel them, and then shave them very thin with a knife. I wouldn't mess around with a mandolin um, unless they were really underripe. But toss that with a thinly shaved jalapeno, some shallots, and some cilantro, just as I did for that cherry salad. Woo, man, that would be very, very good. Maybe you'll try it. Maybe you'll join me again in another edition of these live events and tell us how it went. Cool. From Priscilla, have you ever used sour orange in a recipe or heard of a good use of them? Marmalade is the only thing I've heard using them for. I have a full tree full of them in Arizona. Great, yeah. So I spent some time living over in Spain for a while, just south of Sevilla in Andalusia, in a tiny little town called Lucanine de las Torres. It was an awesome place, right outside of Almeria. So bitter oranges, sour oranges, Sevilla oranges are of course, very prominent there. So use them just as you would limes or lemons. It's kind of right in the middle of those two, adding incredible sweetness, a hint of bitterness, but also a good deal of sweetness. They really are kind of sweet. Um, I could see segmenting them. I know they tend to be quite seedy, so that would be a little bit tough. But mixing them into that cherry salad would be really, really nice. Throwing them on top of this watermelon salad might be a very nice component to it. Sauteing, dry searing in a cast iron pan, dry searing some red onion, thinly shaved red onion, and then mixing it with the juice of those with maybe a little achiote, some cumin to it, would be a really nice sauce, sort of more like an agrodolce onion that could go on top of anything from chicken to fish to tofu, whatever you're doing. Am I going to give you a way to use a whole tree full of them? No, unless you have a very, very big margarita party. Would you invite me? Yeah. Um, I don't know if we could use up a whole tree of them, but there's a couple of versions for you. In Mexican cuisine, bitter orange, sour orange is used quite a bit, especially in combination with achiote paste. It is part of an achiote paste mixed with the achiote annatto seed powder, as well as garlic and onion, etc., that have been cooked down and simmered together. And typically pork is braised in that, pork in adobo. Um, but you can do virtually anything with it. So, hey, cheers. Great question. I hope that you are enjoying your citrus out there in lovely Arizona. Cheers. From Kelly, I make a sweet hot sauce poured over a deep fried fish, pomfret or pompano. Don't you live well? Good for you, Kelly. It's made of pineapple, cilantro, button mushrooms, and Thai chili. Nice. I would be interested to hear your improvised version of a sauce with that used with a deep fried fish. Oh, isn't that cool? Huh. Wow. Pineapple, cilantro, button mushrooms, and Thai chilies. Man. Well, I would certainly throw a little bit of fish sauce in there because I am very partial to fermented fish. So Thai fish sauce, you're already there with the Thai chilies. Um, Button mushrooms is an awesome idea. I really love that, and I'm going to incorporate that in. I might suggest swapping out the pineapple. Try and match those flavors. Not match flavors, but sort of match those components. So maybe add mango and lime juice or mango and bitter orange juice. Sort of that sweet pineapple. Mango meets you there, but the lime brings that brings in that bitterness, that sourness. Another thing you might add, and something I meant to talk about, is cocktail bitters, right? Not just for cocktails, folks. If you're making a vinaigrette, if you're making a hot sauce, a few drops of this bring things into balance. I mean, that's the whole point of them in cocktails, is to bring sweet things, sort of make them take a couple of steps back, right? A few drops of this in a vinaigrette used on a fruit salad is killer. It's so wonderful. So the Peychaud's, the Angostura, whatever you've got, I wouldn't go too crazy on the flavored bitters that bartenders have now, but just like Peychaud's from New Orleans, man, this is it's just my favorite. It's yeah, there you go. It does have alcohol in it, but you're talking about a couple of drops. So there you go. But what a cool hot sauce, man. What a cool hot sauce. Kelly, thanks for sharing that with me. I dig. Another thing to maybe instead of the pineapple, or in addition to, would be carrot juice. Carrot juice adds so much sweetness to things in really sneaky but also very earthy ways that are really delightful. Cheers. All right, from Omar, another question, buddy. I definitely prefer ingredients like fennel to be smaller and more fully integrated into dishes. Bigger pieces have a way of becoming isolated from the rest of the dish because it demands your whole mouth. You're absolutely right. I think that, and thanks for picking up on what I was talking there. You have to think about, as a cook, how am I, the eater, going to experience this, right? And just because you want to have this big piece of fennel in your dish because it might look good, like, well, how's the eater going to? Do you really want everybody to have to use a fork and knife on this summer salad where you're outside and, like, okay, and the integration just isn't there? Think about always the eater's experience of something. And I think about that all the way up to the garnish. Is the first thing that I have to do to my dessert is to do this, to take my mint and go put it somewhere else? Like, okay, or that giant stalk of rosemary that's like just hanging out up in space. Like, okay, it's just a waste of food and money. And I literally, the first thing I have to do is to take my hands, put them in my food, and move it away. So as a chef, always think about the eater's experience with that. And when salads, especially, cutting them down to bite size. You never want a salad leaf to be so big, that I've got to do this and throw the egg in my mouth and it's all in my face and I'm eating my fish. I'm fine. Nobody wants that. You're welcome for that demo, by the way. I hope you caught that. It's going to end up on the internet as a meme there. Hi. Did I mention I was feeling a little bit weird today? There you go. Anyway, I'm with you, Omar. Good. Appreciate your comments, buddy. All right, from Veronica. Love the presentation of this. First time joining. Oh, well, isn't that lovely? Well, welcome to the Ruby family. And yeah, we're not all this weird. Some of us are even weirder, but we all love you and we all appreciate you being here. So thanks. All right, from Beverly. What types of fruits pair best with types of wines or sauces? Interesting. Great question. Fruits can be a little tough on wines. So simply because they can overpower the sweetness. Through their sweetness, they can overpower the delicacy of the wine. Wine being basically former fruit that's just matured into something different. So when doing that, when pairing wines with fruits, just be careful and be mindful of the volume here. And by volume, I mean more just kind of like the audio, if you will, sensory volume, more so than the metric volume of it. Mango and a ripe, rich Chardonnay or New World Sauvignon Blanc is going to be killer. Kiwi with a New World Sauvignon Blanc is going to be killer. Sorry, you know what? I'm not going to say killer anymore. We got enough news about that. It's going to be awesome. That's what I meant to say. Yeah, those pairings are going to be great. Mango, pineapple though is really hard because of the acidity in pineapple. Just it bites through. You ever had your tongue burned at the end of eating pineapple? It just doesn't tend to work well with wines, even though in a lot of top New World Chardonnays and Old World as well, you'll get hints of pineapple, but the pairing doesn't really quite work. Fruits in red wine. So plums in red wine is one of the greatest desserts there is. Just very ripe plums sliced in half and soaked in like a northern Italian Amarone or something like that, or even in a Chianti, something pretty austere. Peaches soaked in red wine for a couple of hours and then just eaten. Oh my gosh, are they good? It's just a perfect pairing. So why couldn't you pull that into your salad? Same thing, absolutely. Pinot Noirs and cherries go really well, especially New World Pinot Noirs on the riper side. Those from Napa, maybe warmer climates such as Horse Heaven up in Washington State, etc. Cooler climate, more Burgundian, old world style Pinots, you're going to have to tame back the fruit volume a little bit. Add some herbaceous characters, add some mushrooms, maybe some quick pickled shiitakes in this cilantro salad would be really great, and probably bring it back with a little bit of that forest floor aspect that would bring an old world style Pinot to the fore on this. This salad with a Merlot, ding, 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 ding. Yes. Um, yep. Ding, 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 ding. Yes, this would be good. Um, so just thinking about volume, like not audio volume, but just sensory volume of the fruit. How much flavor do you need before you get overwhelmed by sweetness? Is really what you're after. So, cheers. Great question. Thank you. From Marcos, can you recommend you mentioned wine. Can you tell me what kind of wine is good for general cooking? Thank you. So I tend to have on hand, I like drinking wine when I cook, and therefore I pretty much cook with the wine I'm drinking. Um, don't cook with a wine that you wouldn't drink. Why? Because when you cook with wine, you reduce it. So you take the characteristics of that wine and you amplify them. So if you're using a wine that you wouldn't really enjoy drinking and amplify it, guess what? You're going to have something you're not really going to love in your dish. That said, if you're opening that $100 bottle of Cabernet that is your, annual celebration of your beloved on your anniversary, whatever you're doing, like probably don't dump a glass of it into your stew. I got that. Box wine is really where I go. I don't have anyone right now, but there's some really, really great box wines from Spain in particular that I really like. Look for one made from Garnacha or Grenache, as it's known in French and in English. Garnacha, it's fruity, it's bold, it has slight tannins to it, but good structure and a lot of great flavor. So you're going to get some plum, you're going to get some cassis, yes, a little bit of that, but you're really going to get strawberry on the nose. And when this reduces down, it kind of just is like, I'm kind of like the perfect wine. The Garnacha just works. And you can buy it in 2 liter, 3 liter boxes. And yeah, it says use within 2 weeks. It's fine. Use it within 6 months and you're good. I just keep it up on the countertop right up there by my salt, my vinegar, and my olive oil. White wines, I don't cook with Chardonnay, especially oaky ones. I find that just it devolves into just what is that? Like it loses any acuity that it had. And just kind of becomes a little bit unrecognizable. It doesn't really add that much acid. So I tend to cook with Italian varietals, white varietals, Vernaccia, Gavi, Suave. If you can find a pretty decent box of that, and I'm talking pretty decent means like $20 for 3 liters, for 1.5 liters, maybe. I mean, we're not talking expensive wine here. There you go. And yes, it does keep. And maybe it loses a little bit on the drinking quality from the oxidation over time that it goes, but you got 6 months to use it. It's fine. So great question, Marco. I appreciate you. All right, from Charisse. Hi, friend. What type of mint do you use? I have white mint in my garden. What can I use it for? I don't know what white mint is. I imagine maybe it has the variegated leaf with the sort of the white border around it, which I think would be sort of maybe a chocolate mint or a type of spearmint. So I have good old Kentucky mint. This to me is the mint, also called mojito mint, Kentucky kernel mint, or just garden mint. This is it for me. This is what I use. I've got a couple other types of mint out there. I've got a fuzzy mint, the pineapple mints, the apple mints, the orange mints, et cetera, et cetera. You know what? They sound really good. But you know what? This is better. Why? Because I know exactly what I'm going to get. This mint works with everything that mint is called for. Those other kind of specialty mints can be distracting. I think the same is true with thyme. like good old German or English thyme. Good. There we go. Once you get into silver thyme and lemon thyme and orange thyme and pineapple thyme, and it's just like, well, these seem cute, no, not useful. But the mint that you have, I'm probably guessing, is more of a spearmint style. So it's going to have a lot more sort of upper palate rather than the back full palate that mint tends to. So what do you use it for? Pretty much everything. Is it going to work in salads? Yes, it's going to work in salads. I would use a little bit less is the only thing that I would say. It's probably use half of what you would use it for this. Cool. Great question, Sharice. Thanks. I appreciate you joining us. All right, from Karen. Could you hold up the sauce again so I can source it? The sauce. Which sauce? I had the bitters, which is Peychaud's, Peychauds. I had the tagine spice, Tajin, and that's just a dry spice. Other sauces that I used. Did I use any other sauce? Other than vinegars and olive oils? No, I think that was it. So I hope that it's one of those two. So I hope you stuck around for this. Appreciate you, Karen. This is very cheap. You can find it in every bodega for $1.39 or something. It's good on everything. I actually had some on some Honey Nut Cheerios the other day by accident. It was pretty good. There you go. There you have it. All right, from Lisa, last question, then we are out. I find that when we use pineapple in a dish that is numb, that it sort of numbs, cancels the other flavors of items in a dish. Yeah, that's true. And I was talking about that a little bit earlier with the wine pairing especially. Yeah, pineapple and papaya both have some very, very assertive acids that can really be very difficult to pair. The best pineapple, a scant bit of it used in a pico or in a type of salsa where it's mixed in with peppers and onions and other things where it does have a chance to blend in, gives it a better chance. Also, if you're going to use it, I find macerating it in olive oil or whatever oil you're going to use for an hour or so works to help soften it quite a bit. And it sort of makes that acid smoother a little bit and brings it a little bit less into focus and allows it to be a little bit broader. So, hey, great questions today, everybody. Gone a little bit over time here, but I so appreciate you. From all of us at Ruby, we love you. We love that you've joined us. We love that we're all part of a big family together, a family that feeds each other. So I hope that you go forth with an act of love and kindness, feed those around you, tell them you love them, because the world needs so much more of that. Until then, well, until next time, please join me. Check out my books online. Check out my seafood literacy course as well. But as always, we are here to serve you. We are at your command. Thank you so much. Bon appetit. We'll see you again soon. Take care.